And as we continue our 2022 induction ceremony, as chairman of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, it is my honor to welcome Gil Hodges into the Hall of Fame family and ask his daughter, Irene, to join me as Commissioner Manfred reads the inscription on Gil's plaque.
Gilbert Ray Hodges, Gil, Brooklyn, NL, 1943, 1947 through 57. Los Angeles, NL, 1958 through 61. New York, NL, 1962-63. Cleanup hitter and foundational cornerstone of the celebrated Dodger teams that won 7 National League pennants and 2 World Series over 13 seasons in the late 1940s and 50s. 8-time All-Star, topped 20 home runs in 11 straight years, and hit 4 in one game in 1950. One of the finest defensive first basemen of his era, won first 3 Gold Gloves awarded at the position from 1957 through 59. Finished with 370 home runs, 3rd highest total among right-handed batters at the time of his retirement. Managed Washington and New York for 9 seasons from 1963 through 71, leading Miracle Mets to 1969 World Series title.
You know, Tom, this is the end of a long journey for the Hodges family this day.
Yeah, no one ever had so many close calls, so many disappointments, so close to the Hall for so many years without getting in than Gil Hodges. And I do think about the family. You know, I asked Gil Jr. how they decided among the 3 surviving children who would give this speech today. He told me, Irene said, "It's mine." Nobody argued.
Well, the first person that steps up probably has a lot to say. So we're looking forward to hearing Irene Hodges' speech regarding her late father, Gil Hodges.
Gil Hodges could have been in as a player.
Oh, when he retired.
Very similar to Joe Torre.
He was 11th all-time in home runs with 370. One of the great sluggers of his generation.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to begin by offering a very humble and grateful thank you to a few very special people that have been with me on this journey. First and foremost, Chairman of the Hall of Fame, Ms. Jane Forbes Clark. I thank you for your most gracious and heartfelt welcome to the Hodges family. Each and every experience leading today has been flawless and unforgettable as a result of your dedication and leadership. I'd also like to thank Josh Rawitch, Hall of Fame President, who has stood by my side since the beginning in support of my family. Your kindness has always been so appreciated. And certainly not least, 2 very special people who have held my hand and my heart along the way, John and Whitney. You are such a dynamic team. Each and every family representative is so lucky to have you guide us and cheer us as we prepare for this special moment in time. I would also like to thank my family for being here, for being a part of the most wonderful celebration for my dad. It is such a privilege to stand here today as the Hall of Fame honors my father. He was a very humble man, but he would be so proud to be here with the best of the best in baseball. 50 years ago, not only did the Mets and the Dodgers lose one of their heroes, we lost a husband and a father. Our greatest gift, although my father's life was cut so short, was his influence on those around him. His teammate, Jackie Robinson, once said, A life is not important except for the impact it leaves on others. My father sincerely believed that and led a life that has impacted others in a positive way. You will hear a lot today about Gil Hodges, the baseball player, what he did on the field and in the dugout. You will hear how he was the dominant first baseman of the 1950s. You will hear how he led all Major League first basemen during that decade in home runs, RBIs, hits, and games played. And you will hear also how he took a team affectionately known as the Lovable Losers and turned them into the Miracle Mets in just 2 short seasons. But I am his daughter, and I am here to tell you about the man he was. Nobody loved the game of baseball more than my dad. He worked tirelessly to make it to the major leagues. He achieved his dream, appearing in his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1943. But he loved his country even more. After his very first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. My dad was a selfless person, and he knew he had to serve his country. He would leave his baseball career behind, never knowing if he would make it back, and he would serve and protect his country. My dad proudly served in the Battle of Okinawa, where he was awarded the Bronze Medal and a Combat V Medal for heroism under fire. Through all this, my father never lost sight of his faith and his love of people. During his time in Okinawa, he would befriend the Japanese children who were so frightened by the American soldiers. My father would gather the children from the village along with his fellow Marines and teach them baseball. It gave them some joy back in their life where the war had robbed them of. Later on, when Jackie Robinson became the first African American to break the color barrier in Major League Baseball, nothing was more important to my dad than giving Jackie all of his support. We were like family with the Robinsons. Jackie's kids played in our house, we played in theirs. My dad were not only teammates with Jackie, but they were family. My father made everyone feel comfortable and accepting of Jackie when he came to the big leagues. Recently, I heard a story about my dad, which I believe shows the support Jackie had from his teammates. During a game, Jackie was being heckled by the opposing dugout nonstop. At one point, my dad had had enough of that. He put down his glove, he went to the top step of the dugout and said, "If anyone else has anything to say, let them come out here right now and we will settle it." Needless to say, nobody came out and no one said another word. My dad had an open heart for Jackie. They were close until the day my dad passed. On the day of my father's funeral, Jackie cried uncontrollably, saying, "Next to my son's death, this was the worst day of my life." Soon after my father passed, so did Jack. Duke Snyder said my dad was a great ball player, but he was an even greater man. He set an atmosphere in the Brooklyn team in which there was never any animosity or jealousy. He was a true leader of men and built camaraderie among his teammates. Everyone wanted to win, but never put themselves above anyone else on that field. My father had a special relationship with the Brooklyn fans. Even though he was from Indiana, he loved Brooklyn and became a part of his community. He went to church there. He walked to the stores. He would take us sledding when there was snow. There was never any pretense about him. He was an ordinary man, and everybody knew him. He was respected, and he showed respect to everyone as well. When my father slumped in the 1952 World Series, Brooklyn fans loved him. Who goes 0 for 21 and gets a standing ovation every time at bat? That's exactly what happened to my dad. The Brooklyn fans loved my father, and they loved their team. So when the Dodgers finally beat the Yankees in 1955 World Series, it was one of the greatest days that Brooklyn had ever known. There was no more wait till next year. So it's easy to understand that when the Dodgers left Brooklyn, the borough lost a piece of its heart. My dad was also proud of being part of a Dodger team that won it all in 1959. After his playing days ended, his strong leadership skills would lead him to a managerial position, with his biggest days coming back in New York and with the New York Mets. Some of his players feared him, others complained about his platooning system, but they respected him. He was a fair manager. He wanted the best from every player on the field and believed they could do that. He felt the team owed that to the fans and to the front office. The expectation, you always give 100%. My father already had a reputation for being a stern manager with the Washington Senators. He was very strict on bed check during road trips, and when he found out that 4 of his players had skipped bed check, he held a team meeting the next day in the clubhouse. Never one to embarrass anyone, he told them he was aware that some of the players had skipped bed check, and there was a cigar box on his desk. At the end of the day, he wanted $100 from each of those players. At the end of the day, there was $700 in that box. It was important to my dad to create an atmosphere of honesty in his clubhouse, and he did just that. The most important lesson he taught his players and his children: never lie. He would tell us, you need to look in that mirror and have respect for the person you see. I know there are many here today that would agree that my father's finest hour was managing the Miracle Mets of the 1969 World Series championship. His immediate reaction to my mom: we did it. We brought the championship home. And that's how he felt. He truly loved his team, and he loved managing them. He knew how good they can be and how successful they would be. And now they believed it. The great Met pitcher Jerry Koosman said, Gil Hodges was the most important part of our '69 Met team because he made us believe in ourselves. The '69 Mets did what nobody thought could be done, and that made my father so proud for his team. I am proud today that we have 4 of our amazing Mets with us to honor my dad: Cleon Jones, Ed Kranepool, Art Shamsky, and Ron Swoboda. I would also like to thank Maxine Agee, who's representing Tommy Agee, of course, and to Sarah Seaver, who, as we all know, my dad loved Tom and had the utmost respect for him. So I'm so happy they are all here. I would be remiss if I did not take a moment to thank the most outstanding Met I know, and that is Jay Horowitz and his lovely lady, Linda. Thank you both so much for all you have done to help celebrate this very special time in our families' lives. My mom loves you both so much. Your daily calls brighten her day, and we love you both so much. My dad's humility, ever present. In his office, right after the big win, my mom said to him, "Gil, call your mother. She must be so excited." My dad's reply, "Joan, that's a long-distance call. I don't think I should make that from the office. I'll wait until I go home." Here, he had just achieved a miracle of all baseball miracles, yet he would only do what he thought was the right thing. That was my dad. Today, I am especially happy for my mother. When the call came from the Hall of Fame and I heard, "This is Jane Forbes Clark, and it is my honor," I began sobbing, probably as much as I did when I lost my father. I was so beyond happy for him, and even thrilled that my mom at 95 would be able to hear this news. My mom is watching today from our home in Brooklyn. And to my dad, I love you so much, and I miss you every day. And I know you are smiling from heaven, now with our sister Barbara, who we miss unbelievably. And without a doubt, I know you're celebrating with Tom and the boys of summer. Thank you.